Well, this is pretty cool for me. Why? Because I got Russ here, Russell Domingo. How are you, Russ?
I'm very good, Pom, particularly after today's cricket game. It's been a fantastic day. Good to be back in Port Elizabeth and to be part of an amazing game of cricket and in front of a packed crowd was really cool.
Let me fill you in. You might watch this at a different time, right? Russell, batting coach slash assistant coach?
Just batting coach.
Just batting coach of Sunrisers Eastern Cape in the SA20. We're in Port Elizabeth, as he said. We literally, I don't know, it's maybe an hour ago. I've come from a game that was fantastic. And his side on the right side of it.
Yeah.
So that's why he says that. That's why he says that he's kind of happy. And maybe that's why he gave me this interview.
Small margins, Pom. 2 days ago we lost by 2 runs. Today we win by 2 runs. And those are the margins in the sport.
Yeah, there you
Crazy.
go. So, I say it's a special occasion because this man has been on a coaching journey, a very long one. It has. Well, I shouldn't talk, but you should. How's the journey been?
I've been very blessed. When you think about it, I'm in a very privileged position. I've been coaching since the age of probably 21. I'm now 49, turning 50 this year. And I've been fortunate to coach 2 international teams, which not many people can stake claim to. So I've been very blessed to work with some of the best players that have played the game and have been involved in some amazing games of cricket, seen a lot of spectacular places, met some amazing people. So sometimes you take it for granted, but I certainly don't, because I've been extremely privileged and extremely fortunate to have been given the opportunities I have been.
Many would ask the question, why? Why would you coach at such a young age?
It's probably not good enough to play, Paul, and that's the bottom line. And look, we all had aspirations of being professional cricketers, and I suppose as a young, talented cricketer, I thought, oh, this is what I want to do, and it didn't quite work out for me. And I was fortunate that I worked at Eastern Province Cricket, and I had a CEO called Dave Emsley, and a boss called Adrian Burrell, who I'm working for now at the Sunrisers, who had a lot of belief and confidence in my ability to communicate and work with players. And my first job was an under-15 Eastern Province team that Colin Ingram was part of, and we played against him a couple of days ago. It's amazing. Robin Peterson was part of. So amazing how it's come full circle that they're still playing, they're still involved in the game, and Robin's been a successful coach. And that's how it sort of kicked off, coaching a provincial under-15 team to, I suppose, ending up coaching South Africa, which is the pinnacle of any coach's career, I suppose.
Pinnacle being international cricket, and I suppose you're speaking also of the synergy, I don't know what we would call it, the fact that you'd coach your own national side. Do you view that as better than coaching? By better, I'm not comparing the jobs per se. I'm speaking maybe more from a fulfillment perspective and aspirations and all that. You know, coaching another international team.
Without a doubt, you're South African. So when you're coaching South Africa, I suppose you love the experience more. You go into a restaurant and you think, oh, everybody's talking about me, or oh, Pommie's got something to say about me. I suppose when you are in a foreign country, you are less aware of the things that might be said or be written or spoken about, type of thing, and you live it because you are the coach, but you're ultimately also a fan, and you're a South African, and you always want the team to do well. So I suppose you're more emotionally invested in it. You're working with your own people, so you understand the cultures, you understand the challenges, you understand the diverse thoughts on the game. So no matter who you are, coaching your own country is the pinnacle.
Okay. I would like you to compare the two jobs. It's the same job, but they're two different. Not from a perspective of what you've just told me, and the differences in that way, but I mean the nuts and bolts. So you coached South Africa and did well. And when I think back, actually, I'm sitting here thinking in my head about how things went in your tenure. And then you coached Bangladesh, and again, I'll say you did very well. As far as I'm concerned, I'm talking purely from what counts in terms of when people evaluate and analyze how people have done it, it ends up being about the results in your
Absolutely.
tenure, right? That's all it ends up being. So could you make them win? And you made Bangladesh win. You made Bangladesh win overseas. You made South Africa win. So you compare the two jobs.
I think completely different pressures, because with South Africa there is the expectation and the pressure that we got to win every single game type of thing. And that in itself is a challenge, because you cannot win every single game. There's all sorts of things that going into winning teams. With Bangladesh, the pressure is totally different. There is no country that, I suppose India, I suppose Pakistan, there is no country that's as cricket mad as Bangladesh. There are 200 million people in a country maybe the size of Gauteng. So it is, and everybody watches cricket. In South Africa, we've got rugby, we've got football, we've got cricket, we've got trickers to pursue who's the world champion. Bangladesh,
UFC, yeah.
Bangladesh have just got cricket. So all 200 million people are fully engrossed and fully emotionally involved in the game of cricket. So it's a totally different experience, because in South Africa, I'm a small fry, I can walk on the street, nobody really cares. In Bangladesh, it's a different level. It's a completely different beast, and they've got challenges with their cricket system, but they produce some amazing cricketers. And if someone had to ask me, as a coach, what is your greatest 5 performances as a cricket coach
I would like
of
to
a
know
team?
that. I would like to know that.
I would without a doubt say 2 of them would be with Bangladesh. For Bangladesh to beat South Africa in a one-day series in South Africa is unheard of,
Yeah.
considering their record here. And then winning a test match in New Zealand with a sort of young Bangladeshi team after they hadn't won a game in 37 or 38 games in New Zealand must rank as one of the great outlets in test match cricket, and to be involved in that was really special.
Abadot. It was him.
Eberhard Hussain was magnificent. He bowled
It was I'm right, yeah.
And Eberhard, the things with Eberhard, he was a volleyball player. He worked in the military, in the Air Force, and won a sort of Bangladesh's Got Talent bowling contest. 2 years later, he's bowling New Zealand out in New Zealand. So it's an amazing story. They've got some amazing personalities and amazing cricketers, and an amazing passion for the game, which sometimes can just be too much. Can just absolutely weigh you down, and because they think that they should win every single game, and it's impossible.
Yeah. From that, international cricket, South Africa, Bangladesh. Back to this. That's what and I say back to this because, yes, you're batting coach here of Sunrisers, but you're also head coach of Lions in South African domestic cricket. High, as in pinnacle, to just below. The adjustment, the difficulty, the ease, how you found it.
I've actually loved it. I think the Lions organization as a whole is probably one of the ones to work for. Iconic stadium at the Wonders. Some really good players, maybe 7, 8 nationally contacted players, and an amazing CEO. I'm blessed that I've got Hashim Amla as a batting coach. I've got Alan Donald as a bowling coach. So
that's not bad. I don't think that's bad.
I've been having me as a batting coach, I can tell you that. So we've got a really fantastic setup. We've got some fantastic players: Mulder, Rickleton, Pavuma, Rabada, Bjorn Fortuin. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
So I'm ecstatic to be back in South African cricket, because ultimately I'm South African and I want to see South African cricket do well. So really pleased to be back and loving my new assignment.
You sound passionate about cricket.
I've got something more passionate. I'm more passionate about.
I'm gonna say, how passionate are you about cricket?
I love cricket. We went out for dinner the other night. Myself, Adi Parol, Dale Steyn, Bakir Abrams, and whilst we're having dinner, we've got the phone on. We're watching cricket. So that's what we do. It's actually pretty crazy. You go into my house. Last night I had dinner with my wife, but the cricket's on. We're watching Paul. So it's my life. It's all I've done. It's the only job I've done and the only job I can do, I suppose. And I love cricket. Cricket's been good to me.
Yeah.
Cricket's been very good to me, and I'm forever grateful to the sport for that.
I've heard other things. I've heard about trips to the ends of the earth. Literally, by the way, I'm not just using that as a phrase. Trips to the ends of the earth, um, to fish.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I probably coach cricket so that I can pay my bills to go fishing. Because my other interest and other absolute love, bar my family and stuff.
Yeah. We've got to. There's
gotta
some
add
things we
that.
must take for granted, right?
Yeah,
Like we take for granted first. Love, passion, responsibility, everything, choice is your family and your
Without
kids,
a
of
doubt.
course. Yeah, of
But we've
course.
got that aside now. Let's
Yes,
put that aside.
we'll put that aside. Then we've got cricket, which is kind of front and center. And I want you to tell me about this fishing story.
No, I've always loved fishing from a young age. Just around the corner, my dad used to take me fishing off the rocks, and my fishing's progressed from there. Look, I'm not the world's greatest fisherman, but what I do have is the world's greatest fishing tackle. I always get teased I'm the worst dresser in the world, and there's nothing fancy about me. But I've got fancy fishing tackle, Pommie. I absolutely love buying nice fishing tackle, and every opportunity I get to use it, I use it.
So, who is responsible for you loving fishing, having a passion for fishing this way?
My dad, without a doubt. My dad was the guy who introduced me to cricket and introduced me to fishing. So I'm eternally grateful for him. And back in those days, I can tell you, my dad didn't have fancy fishing tackle and he didn't do fancy fishing trips. But he did develop an absolute love and a passion in the sport that I've taken on.
And you keep coming back to the sport. It's not. I'm really interested in the kind of the fishing part. And how old were you? So the first time you went fishing, how old were you?
I reckon my first experience as a fisherman might have been 4 or 5 years old, trying to catch some little what we call rock pollies in the gullies around at the back of the University of Marine Drive and at Sea View, and that's sort of what sparked my interest. I remember my mum dropping me at the river. In those days, she'd drop me as a 10 or 12-year-old with a friend. We'd swim across the river, we'd pump our prawns, we'd pump our bait, and we'd swim back and we'd fish for the rest of the day. And she'd fish us at sunset type thing. So she'd drop us off at 5 or 6 in the morning. We spend the entire day there with some sandwiches, and she'd fetch us in the evening. So it's always been a real passion of mine. And I still fish that river, crazily enough. And when I fish that river, I can still see myself doing it as young. I don't know if I'd let my youngster do it today.
This is what I was going to say. How old are your boys now?
One is 19 and one is 16.
And
And even now I wouldn't let them do it. But when I was 10 years old, that's what we used to do.
They wouldn't ask your permission now anymore. But yeah, do they like fishing?
My youngest does. My eldest one, not mad about it. He's more of a bookworm. He enjoys his schooling and studying, and so he's studying engineering. So he's a little bit smarter than his dad. But my younger one, he loves going out with his dad and he loves fishing.
I would like you to, for the benefit of those who are out there, if I said, what's the last fishing trip you went on? Where would that be to?
If I were to say an overseas trip, I went to an island called Socotra, which is, I'd say it's about 150 miles off the Somalian coast. It forms part of Yemen. And you only fly in there via Air Arabia, I think, out of Abu Dhabi, and there's nothing there. There's some tree species and some what's the word I'm looking for? Some insects and some reptiles that only live on that particular island. It is a unique fishery and a unique landscape that is sort of been left behind in time type thing. So it forms part of Yemen.
Yeah.
It's about 200 miles off the Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I don't think I can go and fish there. What's happening in the Red Sea,
like channel bit
in
there.
the channel, because that's sort of at the entrance to that channel. So I'm not going fishing there this year.
Okay.
Maybe in a year or two.
So when did you go there?
That was in April 2023. I spent 10 days sleeping in a tent with lots of crabs around me, bathed with a bucket, and lived on the beach for 10 days.
With who?
With 5 mates.
Okay.
One from New Zealand, 2 from the UAE, 3 from the UAE, and me, 5 of us.
And clearly those are friends who are as passionate about fishing as you are.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't understand, like the UAE, Dubai, the Emirates. It's an amazing fishery because it's right close to Oman, which is also another favorite destination of mine. We generally fly to Dubai or the UAE and we drive 10 k's through the desert to a place called Shuaimiyah, get in a boat and live on an island called the Lanyard Islands, which you've probably never heard of, but it's also an amazing fish. An interesting fact is that there's a port there called Salala, which is close to where we fish, that the movie Captain Phillips. If you watch Captain
I
Phillips,
loved it.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yeah.
Sets
And-
sail out of a port in Salala and goes past that particular part of the world.
His name's disappeared from my. Oh, I am the captain now.
I'm the captain now.
I can't find his names, but I love the movie. I
Great
love
movie.
the movie.
So he sort of sailed in around those territories and got himself into trouble. Luckily, we haven't. So far.
Yeah, okay. Where else have you gone fishing? What, like, I suppose I'd call them exotic places.
Fortunately, I fished the Great Barrier Reef, which has been amazing. 5 days on a boat, living out at sea.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, we fished what is known as the Three Kings, which is about 100 miles north of New Zealand. So you drive a boat to the North Cape, which is the tip of New Zealand.
Right.
And then you do about an 8-hour crossing to 3 islands called the Three Kings, where we caught some amazing fish. Oman is obviously a bucket list destination that I do go to. But there's a special place which is not far from here. And if someone had to say to me, you've got a month to go and live and fish somewhere, where do you want to go? I'd by all means take a 6-hour drive up our coast and go to live in the Transkei for a month, because I think some of the most pristine, beautiful river systems, ecosystems in the world are maybe just 5 or 6 hours up our coastline here, and it's a place that it's just a special place. It's just magnificent, it's untouched, it's beautiful, it's pristine, and it's got some really good fishing.
Oh wow.
So not far away.
Not far away.
Not far away.
Not far away. Not. I was going to say not in cold places, but some like New Zealand's a bit cold.
A little
isn't
bit
it, up
cold,
there?
it
Yeah.
can be a bit miserable.
Yeah, it can be. Okay. I'm fascinated. I don't know if you are fascinated by that. Watching this, and you kind of think you know a guy, and you don't really know a guy. Anyhow, I had an idea that you like fishing, but I didn't know how much exactly. There are few people would talk to say, yeah, I like fishing, and but this is a different level.
So like just to interrupt, a guy like Hashim, I probably didn't teach anything about batting, but since we've worked together at South Africa.
Hashim Amla, by the way.
Hashim Amla.
Yeah.
He probably fishes more than I do now. I've sort of introduced him to the love of fishing, and he probably ends up fishing more than I do. He's probably got more time, he's got more money, so he can. So I still got to work.
I think that's a dig. I think that's a dig at Hashim Amla.
But Hashim
I'm gonna have to get him here to answer as well.
He definitely fishes more than I am. I'm a little bit envious that he does, but I think it's one thing I think I've taught him, and that is passion for fishing.
Okay. To finish off, Russ, I would like you to tell me about the game currently and what you think about where it's at, and perhaps
In South Africa or
everywhere.
globally?
Yeah, you can go with South Africa, and then kind of for context, no man's an island, right? So for context, then globally where the game is at.
Pom, being back in South African cricket, we have got some seriously good cricketers in South Africa. When I look around the system and work with some of the players that we've got amazing talent. And I think a lot of it's got to do with our schooling system. We produce some amazing cricketers coming through the system. Every year there's a host of 4 or 5. I think at the Lions at the moment there may be 6 players in South African under 19 team. I was watching young Mapaka bowl the other day, and Temba said to me, "Jeepers, coach, that guy will clean us up at the death."
He bowls proper.
And he's played one game for the Lions already, and he's already played for South Africa A. And he's only going to matric. So you've got a massive conveyor belt of young talent coming through. Obviously the challenge in South Africa is keeping our players interested, because there are so few teams at the moment, so few games. Financially we need to make sure we get sponsors back on board to allow these players an opportunity to try out the game for the next 4 or 5 years after school. Because if there's no rewards for them, they're just going to go and work, and we're going to lose so many good players. So that's a big challenge for us. Obviously financial implications, because the talent pool is immense in South Africa. I've been in Bangladesh, I know. Our facilities are still fantastic. Our schooling systems are still really good for cricket. Our pipeline systems are really good. So it's just keeping those players still involved in the game and finding ways to create opportunities for everybody to play, because at the moment we've got 7, 8 A-side teams and only playing 7 4-day games a year, which is not a lot. So that's a big challenge for cricket. It's just more cricket, I think, number one. Internationally, I'm a little bit concerned that the breakaway of the big 3 nations, Australia, England and India. I mean, South Africa going to New Zealand playing 2 tests. Going to Bangladesh for 2 tests. Going for the West Indies for 2 tests. They need those 3-4 test match series like they used to have in the past. South Africa's a big ticket team. They are a big ticket team. South Africa, England, Australia, they are a big ticket team. And the challenge that we're going to have whilst these other teams are playing 4 or 5 match series is that because we play so much less, the gap can just become bigger and bigger. I can tell you,
in quality, right?
Pommie, Bangladesh, here's a great example.
Yeah.
Mushfiq Rahim made his test debut the same series Alistair Cook made his test debut. Alistair Cook retired 3 years ago with 167 tests. Mushfiq still playing with 88 tests.
That's double.
That's double in 3 years less.
That's amazing.
When you think about it, that's why Bangladesh are struggling in test cricket, because they don't play enough tests.
That's great context, actually, because we try and quantify it a lot of the time.
Go look at that.
Yeah, and people will say, yeah, whatever, you know. Many people will say that.
Of course.
And I suppose it would be the ones that are playing more who would be saying, yeah, whatever, you know, because they would never see it, right? Because it's not happening to them.
They started the same year and we played double his tests in 3 years less. It's crazy.
So that's what you would change?
I definitely look. There's obvious reasons why those teams playing. Financially, it keeps all other boards running.
Yeah.
But there's just going to be the haves and the have-nots, and the gap between those test nations are just going to grow bigger and bigger. And then test match cricket is going to be under pressure. You might as well then just play test matches between 3 or 4 big nations, and that is a concern because ultimately, you look at these formats here. The best players are still the best players in test matches and one-day cricket. And a lot of those players are still the best players in T20 cricket. Of course, there are the few that don't play international cricket, but a lot of them still play test match cricket and are still very successful in T20 cricket.
Yeah. I sometimes feel that some of the guys will say the pinnacle of it is test match cricket and may think it and may feel so. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they would give everything else up for test match cricket.
That's the challenge. I mean, Heinrich Klaasen retiring now is an example of that.
Yeah.
Quinton de Kock retiring is an example of that.
Yeah.
Two big players have just left our system because we're playing 5 tests a year.
Yeah. And the other side of it is you might have younger guys, even younger than that, who will say, oh, test match cricket. Pinnacle.
Absolutely.
Because they think that's what they should say.
But they might not believe it.
Yeah, they might not believe it anymore.
Not believe it, so.
And the less it's played, the more likely they don't believe it.
Absolutely.
Because that, the proof is in, the pudding's in the eating.
A guy like Rabada, in all honesty, should get very close to Dale Stein's 430 test wickets.
430 something.
And he started so young, he should probably go past Dale Stein's record. I don't know if he's going to.
Just by not playing
enough test matches.
Not enough test matches available.
When are we going to have another test batter with 20 test hundreds? Because you then got to play a lot of tests to do that if you're only playing, or for a lot of years if you're only playing 8 or 9 a year.
We're supposed to have a fun interview and chat.
I'm sorry.
You're depressing me,
Let's get back to the fishing side. But we still got amazing players in our country. I mean, I look at the talent and there's 6 SN19 players, the line system. Where do I play them? How do they play? When are they going to play? Those are the because there were under 19 players last year as well. So what happens to them?
And it's that banking up, isn't it? And that's kind of been the difficulty with the game in terms of keeping people in the game. And also want to jump from I'm 19, I'm really good, and I want to jump ahead of whoever's 20 and 21 and 22 and 23 and 24.
And they got to wait their time.
Yeah, and it's difficult to wait and get.
Because I've got some good 23, 24-year-olds that are not playing as well. So tricky.
Yeah. So, to finish, what is it you're going to do to celebrate turning 50 years old? When is it? It's the second half. I know it's second half of the year. I don't know. I can't remember when your birthday.
I think there are 2 gifts. One would be a gift to myself, and that might be an exotic fishing trip with my mates.
There's a shock.
I'm trying to get my wife to buy into that one. That look, I deserve a little trip somewhere special with my mates to go and fish.
Right.
And then there might be some family holiday somewhere. Maybe the plan is to maybe do a Mediterranean boat cruise somewhere. But I need to win some cricket games, so I've got some money for that because it's not going to be cheap. But That's probably the plan when I turn 50. It's maybe a Mediterranean cruise, which my wife has always wanted to do, but there's a little from me gift.
Yeah.
That might just involve a bit of fishing somewhere special. That's all.
Yeah, even the Mediterranean cruise, I reckon, is good. Russ, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, Pom.
Great to chat. And you got to tell them one more thing. You got to tell everybody who's out there to subscribe to Mbangwa Media.
Mbangwa Media, the place to subscribe. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of great content. I'm sorry I'm one of the bad ones, but I'm sure there'll be some big clients on Mbangwa Media coming up in the near future, so let's all subscribe to that.
Let's just say he's a big ticket, okay?
Thanks,
Cheers,
Pom.
Russ.
Cheers, Russ.